think I'd like to come back to the point raised about the American crisis. I think, because again, I come back to a point that I'll overstate over here, but it's the Brazilian economy is, at least again, Brazil, it's immensely resilient. For the good or the bad, the strength is in its internal dependence. The 10% GDP, 20% import plus export to GDP is extremely low. The net creditor position of the overall government gives it a lot of strength. These are conditions that we did not have in 1984. So I can see Brazil going through quite severe crisis, and evidently GDP growth would fall. It doesn't mean that things don't happen. But again, the big risk to Brazil, the big difference between growing at 1.5% or 1.5%, growing at 3.5%, 4%, is the internal policy choices that the country will make.
Okay, I have one question then.
Yes, Emílio Zanotti from ArcelorMittal Tubarão. Just one question, just to complement what you mentioned. Do you believe this concept valid under the current environment in which Brazil was considered the country of the future, but now you see that since 2001, when the concept was launched, the difference between countries came too far? And do you believe that we have still condition to follow this trace and let's say return to the fundamental of BRICS and keep this concept alive?
No, I believe fully in the BRICS concept. I think sometimes we're too critical about Brazil's own performance, but a lot of other emerging markets, very big emerging markets, including some of the BRICS, have seen their growth rates come down a lot recently. We always looked at South Korea as the example. South Korea is growing very slowly. India is quite an important BRIC, and its growth rates have fallen. So it's been a challenging environment, and sometimes it's difficult to see why it has become so challenging. And sometimes when I, frankly, taking now an optimism, when people look at Brazil and say, you're really bad and you're doing really badly, well, look around you. It's tough to find shining stars nowadays. I think the fundamental concept that these are emerging markets with fundamentally better growth potential and an effort to implement better institutions that can all go for the upside, that is very consistent.
Okay, I'm getting a signal its time is up, so I'd like to thank Bill and Maurizio for a very interesting discussion. I think it's Bears 2, Bulls 0, but the discussion will continue later on. Much.
Thank you, David, and thank you very much, Bill and Maurizio, and on behalf of everyone for taking the time out of your agendas to be with us today. I think that sets a very interesting perspective for our next part of the session. I'd like to invite both Lou Schorsch and Michel Wurth to join me on the stage. Lou, of course, is the GMB responsible for carbon, and Michel is the GMB member responsible for long carbon worldwide. And they are both going to give their perspectives on the business over here and set out their expectations for their segments accordingly.
At the screen. Today I had the view on this poster, which is a poster of the convention today, and I was asking myself, why did they choose such a nice view of South America, of Latin America, made out of wire rod? And then I was telling myself, this must be a tribute to our main product in long, because if we go from north to south, in fact, our main product here is really wire rod. But maybe also that it might be a tribute to where it all began, because we are doing some historical ceremonies today, later today, but everything started in Sabara in 1921. When Belgominera was created, and I think we have all to be very proud that it all started with steel making in Latin America with ArcelorMittal. And I think we should not forget it, and today Sabara also is, as we know, a wire plant, which is one of the good plants we have today in our downstream. I would like also to think about another date. That was year 2001. 2001, I think, was very important for us here today because there were two events which were one. The one I remember, I was also sitting here in Tubarão with Benjamin, but we had also a meeting in Luxembourg. Was a decision that the hot strip mill here in Tubarão was decided. Imagine, and it was a tough decision because there were many, it was big fights, many people were against it, and I wanted only to mention it because imagine today, and looking at our neighbor here, CSA, if that decision would not have been taken at that moment. But 2001 also was very difficult from an economic point of view, and it was a moment when Asinder joined the family. And it was also very heavily debated, and I think Mr. Mittal, he was giving some tribute on the good achievements on Argentina, and so I think it was another important day for the development and also for what we are today, that is a major steel producer, the major steel producer in Latin America. And so the question for us today, and I think for Lou and for me today before you, is to say, will we have also in the future some of these opportunities? Because we have seen that in the past some bold decisions have been taken, and these decisions basically are also why we can be so proud of what has been achieved and what we are today. And my answer to you definitely is yes, but. And I would like to elaborate a little bit on these two words. First of all, yes, and I think that today we are here and we can be proud because we have many strengths, at least from, if I see it from the long part where I'm working quite a lot, and I think that we have at least 4 major strengths which are making what we are here today. First one is, first of all, is that the market is still growing, and we are having lots of debates also with David whether it's 5% or 4%, but at least we know that on a secular trend base the market is growing, and it is clearly that if the market is good, then also we would like it to grow. Second strength, I think, which might be at least as important as the market, is our people and our processes. I think that in our plants we have really great people. They are extremely well educated. Mr. Mittal, I say they are passionate, and I can testimony that they are really passionate, and they are extremely competent, and they work in excellent processes. PDCA is something which everyone knows and which has really made history in the group. But if I look also at other processes, like even in CSR or in HR or in other processes, I think really we have very solid processes which which are making this business doing very good. Then we have good assets. It's clear. We have visited 2 of them. I was with Mr. Mittal yesterday in Molevad and in and in Ruiz de Fora. I think throughout the goal we have very good assets or up-to-date technologies, and I include there also what we have in Point Lisas with our DRI, the cheapest gas in the world, DRI production. I think really we have good assets, which is a very strong element to move forward. And then the 4th strength, maybe the most distinctive one, is our integrated business model, which we have in Long. Integrated business model means clearly that a vast majority of our products, 80–85%, go to the end customers through our distribution channel, through our cut and lengths, through our joint ventures which back up, and which has as a consequence that our value chain is much longer here in Latin America in Long than it is in many other parts of the group. And the longer value chain gives us also bigger opportunities to have to have better market access and to have better and to have really better margins. And I think it is for these 4 reasons, for these 4 strengths, that we can be extremely proud of, that you can be extremely proud that we have outbeaten our competition, and that the positive gap we have with our competitors, the most important one being Gerdau, has widened over the last time. So that is to say that due to our strengths, really today, LCA and LCSA is very strong and very and very good, and I think we can be proud on what has been achieved. But the problem is that not everything is bright, and we have seen now from our colleagues before that the economy is giving us some worries, that the market might not be as strong as we would like it to have, that our positive import parity price is so attractive that in some parts of our territory imports are really increasing and are making that in some of our parts, especially if I look at Central America, that we are today not competitive versus competition coming from Turkey or from China. We have also some issues. We were just speaking about inflation, and it is clear that inflation, which has been over the last years significantly higher than the currency devaluation, has made that, for example, today in Brazil and in Argentina, we become high-cost producers, which is something which is very, very new, because 10 years ago we were low cost and we had the good business model, and we were much more, we were really, from that point of view, very cost competitive. But today this is no longer the case, and we need to be very careful. And if we go to Mexico, Mr. Mittal has shown and has proved that, especially in the long part of Mexico, we have a big productivity gap, and if we compare ourselves also towards competition, we are not really where we would like to do. And so we are very strong today. There are some clouds on the sky, and the question is really, what should we do, and what do we expect from you that you achieve in the next years? First question is definitely in safety, and allow me to come back to safety. I know that tomorrow we will have a safety question, but I think that in long we need to improve safety, and in particular when we are going to the fatalities. I've looked at the fatality events since 2010. We have had in Latin America, we have had 9 fatalities. Out of these 9 fatalities, 6 were in Brazil. Out of these 6 in Brazil, 5 were in Long Brazil, and out of the 5 in Long Brazil, 3 were in Molevat. And I think this is something really we need to work on. So we have discussed yesterday also the maturity program you have engaged in Molevat. We have seen that the frequency rate today is quite good, but definitely something is wrong, because our fatality frequency rate here in Latin America is much higher what it should be, and that not only in Brazil, also we have had the fatality in Argentina. And so I urge, and we expect from you, that we are making now in the next years decisive path towards a much stronger safety culture than we had before. And probably you can learn from our colleagues from FLAT, because we see that, for example, here in Tubarão, we have had a very good achievement despite the one fatality we have had here, but it was really a constant safety-focused element, and so this is really a very strong expectation from you on the stage. Second, I think also we expect from long South America, from long Latin America, that it continues to be a big contributor in terms of results. Between 2009 and 2012, you have contributed 4.5 billion in terms of EBITDA, making you one of the best contributors in the group. And I think also that for 2013, we will definitely contribute more than 1 billion if I add only Brazil and Argentina together. And so we want this to continue, and I think in order for this to continue, there are some things which need to be done. First of all, I think due to this strong contribution, you have got and you have earned the right to grow. And this has been documented by the fact that there had been 2 steel investments which had been cleared by GMB. The first one was that we restart the Molevat project, which is absolutely key in order to keep our market share in wire rod, and we have looked at it yesterday. And the second one was the Huachan, so the Mozambique mill, which will help us to fundamentally improve our industrial footprint in Argentina, and which had just been cleared by GMB so that we can start and implement this footprint. First of all, increasing our capacity, improving quality, and having a very strong cost reduction also in Argentina. So the right to grow is extremely, extremely important, but we need to execute these projects very carefully. We know that in particular in my segment we have had a bad experience in Duisburg. So, and Mr. Mittal could have, he was illustrating the example of the mining in Canada. He could have taken the example of the wire rod mill in Duisburg, also coming from SMS, which was also overpassed in terms of capex by 20%, delayed by several quarters, and definitely what I expect from you and what GMB expects from you is that we have a very timely and and perfect execution of these investments. Then we need to work definitely also on cost, because we have to show some cost leadership. I was just explaining you that in terms of cost, our segment is ranging due to external factors to the higher cost elements, and so we need to move forward. I think that we have done first good steps, and I would like to highlight, for example, the initiative which has been taken in BBA as early as 2011, where there had been a substantial effort to improve productivity, to decrease cost of labor in order to come back to a much better profitability. And if I look today at the profitability of BBA, what has been achieved, I think it's something which is really, which has been an example. And the same is now going on also in Molevat, in terms of cost reduction, in terms of improvement of productivity. And third example I would like to cite is definitely we will look at Juez de Fora and at Piracicaba. We are today, as Mr. Mittal also has showed, we are at the top. We are one of the benchmarks in the group, and probably even also a benchmark in the overall industry. So I think these are good steps, but it is clear that within the execution of our strategy, these efforts need to continue and also to be expanded to other regions, not only in Brazil or Argentina, but definitely in Mexico. We need to improve our productivity, it's clear, and I think Victor also knows it very well. And in Central America, I think that the focus is much more going on reliability, so that we can increase production, and through increased production reduce our average cost. The fourth element where I would like us to go over the next period is definitely to work further on our market share and to continue with our customer excellence. I think that long carbon Latin America is definitely a reference in terms of customer care, in terms of customer proximity, and in terms of customer service. This has obviously to continue and even to be further strengthened. And in that direction, it is clear that the integrated business model we have implemented very successfully needs to be pursued and enlarged to other geographical areas, eventually through other models. For example, the fact that we have made this partnership in Mexico to have a downstream in terms of wire products, I think it's a good example. The fact that outside Brazil and Argentina we have developed our integrated distribution network with a strong brand name we have is definitely something which helps us to enlarge our product range, and it is something which helps us also to improve our margins. And then I think also that we need to work and to enlarge our joint venture with Beckert. The joint venture with Beckert has been extremely successful because we could join our our strong commercial capabilities with the very high technical capabilities of the world market leader Beckert, and it has helped us to make BBA, which is today the undisputed leader on this continent, moving beyond Brazil and going to Argentina, to Chile, to the northern part of the subcontinent is really something which would go in the right direction. And then in the longer term also, I think that I would like you to invite also thinking about enlarging our product range. In fact, when we look at our product portfolio, we are very much concentrated today on wire rod and wire products. We are very much concentrated on rebars. We are relatively weak in terms of merchant bars and of SBQs, and we are almost non-existent in terms of sections, where there is only one producer here in Brazil, which is Gerdau. And I think there is some opportunity for us in the group to move forward. And we can do that not only by thinking in terms of very expensive capex, but doing some debottlenecking, doing some product developments in some of our plants, and then playing the complementarity with the group. Because in terms of sections and in terms of heavy long products, I think ArcelorMittal is the undisputed world leader. And the market here in Latin America is extremely good, and we should really much further emphasis in order to develop this market, and probably also in conjunction with ArcelorMittal projects. I know that Alain is here, and I hope that during your visit, Alain, you can really continue and try to develop this market as much. And then the fifth and the last expectation GMB has in all of you is leadership and people. What you have to know is that they are not good or bad markets, but they are winners and losers in life. And I can give you an example. Look at the electronic market with Nokia and BlackBerry. A fantastic market, but these companies are on the way to collapse. And on the other hand, look at the US automotive market. You had the three producers, GM, Ford, and Chrysler, which were either bankrupt or near to bankrupt, and they, within 3 years or 5 years, they came back, and today are very, very strong. And the difference of that is people, and it is leadership. And that is really what I want you at the end to work on and to develop. What does that mean? First of all, leaders are very strong people, have to take the right and the rapid decisions, but have to do it in a team, because a team is all the time much stronger than the sum of individuals, even if these individuals are very bright. Second, also, in terms of people, if you want to advance, you have every time to set your right priorities. Every day, in every plan, in every meeting, in every decision, really try to think what is important that I am doing. And if you are concentrating on the important things, you will be, and you will continue to be successful. And the third thing which is important, especially if we want to bring down bureaucracy, we want to establish full trust and full transparency. You with our teams, your teams with ourselves within the group, because if we are very transparent and if we have a lot of trust in all of your capabilities, then obviously we can be extremely performant. And that's for all these reasons. And I think if you follow all what we expect you, we can be very optimistic about the future, and we can be very confident that you will deliver, because your enthusiasm, your will to move forward makes a difference. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michel. I also like the logo quite a bit here, and I also thought of wire rod, but I'm kind of concerned about the reliability of the runout table when I look at the pattern of the material there. But anyway, it's great to be here for this event. I think we obviously work a lot on our weekly calls, and I shouldn't talk about the monthly reviews, but the quarterly bars and so on are always focused on what's happening at that moment, the next quarter, et cetera. So here's a chance to step back and really think about the company more broadly and what we want to aspire to be here in Brazil and in Latin America more broadly. Earlier this week, I was at the WSA meetings with Mr. Middle, Benjamin, Augusto, and others, and I think we heard from all the participants there that the steel industry continues to be in a very challenging environment. We've already heard about a lot of excess capacity. The debate was, is that a 3-year event or a 5-year event or a 10-year event? So we know that we're in a situation where we can't count on the market to improve our performance. We have to rely on our own activities and our own work. And also I think when we meet with the companies at a meeting like that, we find that every single company has the same view. Everybody